Listen to me right now. There is a version of you that exists 5 years from today, 10 years from today. That version of you is either thriving, powerful, full of life and fulfillment, or broken, stuck, and wondering why you never made the decision to change when you had the chance. And I'm telling you, your future self is begging you right now to wake up, to break the pattern that has been holding you hostage. You already know what pattern I'm talking about. That cycle you've repeated over and over. The excuses, the procrastination, the moments you promised you'd start tomorrow but never did. The destructive habits you run back to when life gets hard. The story you keep telling yourself that you're not enough, that you'll never change, that things will always be the same. That pattern is the cage. That pattern is the prison. And the key to freedom has always been in your hands. But you keep dropping it because it feels easier to stay where you are. But let me tell you something. Comfort is the silent killer of dreams. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're robbing your future self of power, of opportunities, of joy, of life. Imagine meeting your future self 10 years from now. They look you in the eyes and say, "Why didn't you stop? Why didn't you fight harder? Why didn't you break the cycle when you had the chance? You could have given me freedom. You could have given me strength. You could have given me life, but instead, you kept me chained to the same patterns. I don't care how many times you've failed. I don't care how long you've been stuck. Right now, this moment, this breath is the moment everything can shift because patterns don't break you. You break patterns. And when you break one, you create a new standard for yourself. That's how transformation happens. Think about it. Your future self isn't asking you for perfection. They're asking you for courage. They're asking you to finally interrupt the cycle. To stop running the same script you've been rehearsing for years. To finally stand up and declare, enough is enough. I will no longer let my fears, my doubts, my old stories dictate who I become. I choose differently now. This is not about motivation. This is about decision. Motivation fades, decisions create destiny. The moment you draw a line in the sand and say, I will not repeat this pattern one more day, that is the moment your entire life trajectory changes. Your future self is begging you to get up earlier, to move your body, to feed your mind, to stop scrolling and start building, to stop waiting for the right time and make this the right time, to stop treating your potential like it's optional and start treating it like it's oxygen. Because without it, you'll suffocate in regret. Patterns are powerful, but you are more powerful. Cycles are strong, but your decision to rise is stronger. And every single time you break one, every time you choose growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, courage over fear, you send a message to your future self, I've got you, I'm fighting for you. I will not let you down, so today make the choice, interrupt the cycle, break the pattern, because your future self is waiting for you, screaming for you, begging for you to step into the life you were created to live. Your future self is shaped by the patterns you choose to keep or break today. Right now, in this very moment, you are setting the blueprint for who you will become tomorrow, next year, or even a decade from now. Most people walk through life unconscious of this truth. They think their future will somehow just arrive, shaped by luck, shaped by circumstances, shaped by someone else's decisions. But the truth is, it's built in the small repetitive actions you take every single day. The habits you reinforce, the behaviors you allow, the excuses you repeat, those become the DNA of your future. You don't accidentally become powerful, disciplined, healthy, wealthy, or fulfilled. You don't stumble into a life of purpose. You design it by breaking the patterns that keep you stuck and building the ones that elevate you. Think about it. Every morning when you wake up, you're standing at a fork in the road. One path is familiar. It's the path of comfort, of repetition, of old habits you've rehearsed 1,000 times before. The path where you say, I'll start tomorrow. The path where you hit snooze, the path where you scroll for hours instead of working, the path where you settle into the same emotions and stories that have kept you small. The other path is uncomfortable, uncertain, and demanding. It requires energy. It requires discipline. It requires courage, but it's also the path where you start rewriting your life. The future you is not waiting for luck. They're waiting for you to choose the second path more often than the first. The problem is, patterns are seductive. They disguise themselves as safety. They make you feel secure because they're predictable, but predictable is not the same as fulfilling. Predictable is not the same as powerful. Predictable is just another word for stagnant. If you're not growing, you're decaying, and every time you allow a toxic pattern to live one more day in your life, you push your future self one step further into mediocrity. Imagine looking back and realizing you had the power all along to break the cycle, but chose not to because it was easier to repeat what you already knew you already know, which patterns are holding you hostage. Maybe it's procrastination, maybe it's distraction, maybe it's running back to comfort food, toxic relationships, endless entertainment, or that voice in your head that tells you you can't. That pattern is stealing from you. It's stealing your potential, your opportunities, your energy, your life, and every single time you surrender to it, you reinforce it. You give it permission to dominate your future, but here's the truth: you are not your pattern. You are not your past choices. You are not your failures. You are the decision you make in this moment. That decision becomes the chisel that carves your future self out of stone. Your future self is not begging you for perfection. They're begging you for a shift. They're begging you to take one pattern, one cycle, one destructive loop, and finally break it. They don't need you to do everything today, but they need you to do something today. Because that something compounds, that one new action begins to rewire your identity. It's never about massive overnight change. It's about consistent interruption of the old patterns until they no longer define you. What if, instead of saying, "That's just who I am," you said, "That's who I used to be, but I'm not repeating it anymore"? That choice alone begins to shape a radically different future when you realize that your actions today are gifts or curses to your future self. Everything changes. Every meal you eat, every hour you waste or invest, every thought you reinforce, every excuse you entertain, you're either adding power to the person you are becoming or taking it away. You are in a relationship with your future self, and they're screaming, "Please stop feeding me weakness. Please stop building me a life of regret. Please start giving me strength, giving me discipline, giving me freedom." And the only way to do that is to break the patterns that keep you trapped right here, and right now comfort keeps you trapped. Growth only comes when you disrupt the cycle. Comfort feels safe, it feels warm, it feels like home, but it is the very thing that robs you of the life you know deep down you were created for. Comfort is disguised as peace, but it's really a slow death. Every time you choose the easy way, every time you choose the path that requires the least effort, you are silently agreeing to stay the same. And here's the hard truth: if you stay the same, life doesn't stay the same with you. The world keeps moving, opportunities keep shifting, people keep growing, and you get left behind. Comfort feels like a reward, but it is the trap that locks the door to your potential. The human brain is wired to seek safety. It wants predictability. It wants to avoid pain. It wants to stick with what it already knows. That's why breaking a pattern feels so uncomfortable, because it goes against the instinct to protect yourself. But what most people don't realize is that growth is never born inside the comfort zone. Growth lives on the edge of resistance. It lives in the place where you feel fear, uncertainty, doubt, and pain. It's not meant to feel easy because easy doesn't transform you. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Every break through you've ever had in your life came when you pushed yourself beyond what felt comfortable. Think about your own life. Think about the times you actually felt alive, proud, unstoppable. It wasn't when you were lying on the couch avoiding the work. It wasn't when you stayed silent instead of speaking up. It wasn't when you let fear win. Those moments of pride and strength came when you did something that scared you, when you stretched yourself, when you went through the fire instead of running from it. That is the proof that comfort never fulfills. It only numbs you temporarily. But growth, even though it hurts in the moment, gives you lasting strength, lasting confidence, lasting results. The cycle of comfort is dangerous because it convinces you that you have time. It whispers, relax, you can do it tomorrow. It's not a big deal, you deserve a break. And while you're listening to that voice, days turn into months, months turn into years, and suddenly you're living a life you don't even recognize. Comfort is addictive, and the longer you feed it, the harder it is to escape. But the truth is, you can escape at any moment if you decide to disrupt the cycle. Disruption is messy, it's uncomfortable, it shakes up everything you've been doing, but it's the only way to create real change. You can't keep walking in circles and expect a straight line future. At some point, you must interrupt the pattern and force yourself into a new standard. Growth demands sacrifice. It demands discipline. It demands that you trade temporary comfort for long-term freedom. When you say no to the easy way and yes to the hard road, you are not punishing yourself. You are preparing yourself. Every time you resist comfort, you're building resilience. Every time you choose growth, you're telling your future self, I've got your back. I'm willing to go through the struggle so you can live in the strength. That struggle is not something to avoid, it's something to embrace. Because struggle is the doorway to growth. Struggle is proof that you are breaking out of the cage that has kept you small. The truth is, comfort doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you stuck. The discomfort you avoid today becomes the regret you carry tomorrow. The pain you fear facing now becomes the pain of a wasted life later. Growth hurts, yes, but it's the kind of hurt that heals. It's the kind of hurt that builds muscle, discipline, confidence, character. Comfort will never give you that. Comfort is cheap, growth is priceless. And the only way to claim it is to disrupt the cycle, to face the discomfort head on, and to remind yourself every single day that the life you want, the person you want to become, will never be found in what feels easy right now. Patterns don't break you. You break patterns through decisive action. Too many people think they are prisoners of their habits, as if the loop they are stuck in has some magical power over them. They say, that's just how I am, that's just my nature. I can't change. But the truth is, you are not your habits. You are not your past repetitions. You are not your excuses. Patterns are nothing more than rehearsed decisions made over and over again until they feel automatic. They are not chains made of steel. They are chains made of repetition. And the moment you choose differently, you prove that the pattern never had power. It was always you who gave it power. Every destructive cycle you've been caught in was born from a single choice that was repeated until it hardened into a habit. Skipping the workout one day became skipping for a week, and then it became part of your identity. Putting off that project one afternoon became putting it off every day until procrastination became normal. Telling yourself, I'll never make it, once turned into saying it every time you tried until the belief felt real. But just as those destructive patterns were built, new empowering ones can be built the exact same way. The difference is you must act with conscious decision, not unconscious repetition. Decisive action is the weapon that shatters old cycles. Not thinking about it, not hoping, not wishing, deciding and acting. One choice followed by another, followed by another. That's how you rewrite the program. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You don't need to wait until the fear disappears. Action itself rewires the mind. Action is what creates momentum, and momentum is what makes the old patterns crumble. Most people stay trapped because they are waiting for motivation to strike like lightning, but motivation is unreliable. Decision is permanent. When you decide with absolute clarity, when you cut off the option of going back, your brain rewires itself to follow through. Imagine a soldier burning the ships when he lands on enemy shores. Retreat is no longer an option. That is what decisive action looks like in your own life. You burn the bridge to the old pattern. You don't leave the door open to go back. You don't say, maybe I'll try. You say, this is done. I'm choosing differently now. That is how you reclaim your power. Because the moment you refuse to feed a pattern with repetition, it starves. And the moment you replace it with a new action, you begin to strengthen a new cycle that empowers instead of destroys every time you break a pattern. You are declaring who you really are. You're telling yourself, I am stronger than my excuses. I am greater than my fears. I am the one in control. And here's the secret. The first break is always the hardest, but once you do it, you prove to yourself it's possible. From that moment forward, you have evidence. You can look yourself in the mirror and say, I've broken it before, I can break it again. That's how you start to build trust with yourself. That's how you create unstoppable confidence. Not by hoping, but by choosing differently in the moment where it matters. It doesn't matter how many years you've repeated the same loop. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed to break it before. The past is irrelevant. What matters is the decision you make right now, because the truth is, patterns are powerless without your cooperation. They don't have a will of their own. They only exist when you give them permission. And the moment you stop giving them permission, they die. You are not the victim of your habits. You are the architect of them. Every day, every choice, every action, you are either reinforcing the old or building the new, so when you catch yourself about to repeat the same destructive cycle, stop. Interrupt it. Do something different, no matter how small. If you always procrastinate, take one small action immediately. If you always quit when it gets hard, push one more rep, one more minute, one more step. If you always give in to fear, speak up once, step forward once, move anyway. That tiny disruption is the crack in the wall, and once there's a crack, the whole thing can come down. That is how patterns are broken. Not by wishing, not by waiting, but by decisive action taken again and again until the new becomes the normal. Every small choice is a vote for the person you're becoming. People often underestimate the weight of the tiny decisions they make every day because they look insignificant in the moment. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like a big deal. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't feel like it changes your life. Spending 1 hour scrolling instead of creating feels harmless. But what you fail to see in the moment is that these choices are not isolated events. They are votes being cast in the election of who you are becoming. Every decision is either reinforcing the identity you want to step into or strengthening the one you've been trying to escape. Your life is not built in a single defining moment. It is built brick by brick, choice by choice, repeated over time until it forms the walls of your reality. The danger is not in one choice, it's in the pattern those choices create. The reward is not in one act of discipline, it's in the identity that emerges when discipline becomes consistent. Every time you choose to delay, avoid, or give up, you are casting a vote for the version of yourself that stays stuck. Every time you push forward, even in a small way, you are casting a vote for the version of yourself that breaks free. The future is not something that suddenly arrives. It's the accumulation of thousands of these invisible votes. The reason people feel powerless is because they imagine transformation as some massive overnight leap. They believe they need to flip their entire life upside down in order to change. But the truth is, the power is in the micro decisions. The strength is in the vote you cast today in this moment. Do you choose to invest in your growth, or do you choose to numb yourself with distractions? Do you choose to face the hard work, or do you choose the temporary ease that always comes with a cost later? When you see your choices as votes, you realize you hold the pen that writes your future ballot. Every single day. Think about the kind of person you want to become. Strong, disciplined, courageous, confident, successful. Whatever vision you hold, understand this. That version of you doesn't appear magically. That version is the accumulation of consistent votes in their favor. A disciplined person doesn't suddenly wake up disciplined one day. They cast that vote every morning they showed up. A confident person doesn't suddenly stop feeling fear. They cast that vote every time they acted despite the fear. A successful person doesn't suddenly get lucky. They cast that vote every time they stayed focused while everyone else was distracted. Your desired identity is not a dream. It's a result of how often you vote for it with your actions, but here's the challenge. The votes for your old identity never stop calling. The easy option, the old habit, the quick fix, they're always right there waiting for you. And the moment you give in, you're casting a vote for the old version of yourself. That doesn't mean one wrong choice destroys you. It means you have to outvote it. One negative choice doesn't define you if you keep showing up with more positive ones. The danger is not in slipping once. The danger is in giving up and letting the old pattern win by default. You don't need perfection, you need persistence. Because over time, the side you consistently vote for becomes the identity that dominates. The beautiful thing about this truth is that it puts you back in control. You don't need to wait until tomorrow. You don't need to wait for some grand opportunity. You can cast a vote right now, read instead of scroll, move instead of sit, speak instead of stay silent, start instead of stall. That one act, no matter how small, tips the balance in favor of the person you want to become. And when you start to stack those votes day after day, you begin to build momentum. And momentum is powerful because once it starts rolling, it becomes harder to stop. The stronger your new identity becomes, the easier the right choices feel, until one day you realize you don't have to force yourself anymore. You've become the person who does it naturally, so if you want to know who you'll be in 5 years, look at the votes you're casting today. Look at the small choices you're making when no one's watching. Look at the patterns you reinforce with your everyday actions. Because your future is not waiting to be discovered. It's waiting to be created by the choices you make in this moment. Every small decision matters because every small decision is shaping the person you are becoming with unshakable consistency. Your future self is begging you right now. Stop repeating the story, start rewriting it. The story you tell yourself every day is either a prison or a pathway. You wake up with it, you carry it around in your mind, and it shapes the way you see yourself, your possibilities, and your future. If your story is filled with excuses, limitations, and old wounds, then you are guaranteeing that tomorrow will look exactly like yesterday. You repeat the same words, you believe the same lies, and you act out the same patterns. That's why your future self is desperate for you to stop telling that story. Because as long as you cling to it, you can never step into the next chapter that's waiting for you every time you repeat the narrative of I'm not enough. I always fail. Nothing ever works for me. You are programming yourself to live in alignment with that identity. The brain is designed to prove itself right, so if you tell yourself you can't, you will find reasons not to. If you tell yourself you're broken, you will act broken. If you tell yourself change is impossible, you won't even attempt it. The story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't need the world to hold you back when your own words are chaining you down. That's why breaking the story is more important than breaking any single habit. Because habits are born from beliefs, and beliefs are rooted in the story you've been telling. The truth is, your story is not permanent. It is not carved in stone. It is not locked in place by fate. It is simply a pattern of words and emotions that you have rehearsed so many times that it feels like reality. But reality shifts the moment you shift the story. If you decide today that your story is no longer one of limitation, but one of power, resilience, and growth, everything changes. You start to notice different opportunities. You start to take different actions. You start to create a future that aligns with a new identity, instead of being trapped by the old one. And that decision doesn't come from waiting until you feel different. It comes from rewriting the story now and choosing to live into it until it becomes true. Think about the person you want to become. Confident, disciplined, successful, fulfilled. That version of you already exists in potential. But they cannot come alive as long as you are reading from the old script. Imagine trying to perform in a play, but refusing to let go of the first draft of the script. even when the new one is right in your hands. That's what most people are doing with their lives. They cling to the first draft, the childhood story, the failures, the disappointments, the times they were told they couldn't, and they keep performing that version over and over. Your future self is screaming at you to throw away that draft and pick up the one that reflects who you truly are becoming. Rewriting your story doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending the past didn't happen. It means reframing it. It means saying, yes, that hurt me, but it also taught me strength. It means saying, yes, I failed, but that failure shaped my resilience. It means saying, yes, I've struggled, but those struggles prepared me for this moment. The same past that once chained you can become the foundation that sets you free if you choose to tell it differently. The difference between someone who stays broken and someone who rises is not what happened to them. It's the story they choose to tell about it, and this is where decisive power comes in. The moment you stop repeating the old story, even silently in your head, and start speaking a new one, you create a shift. The words you use matter. The identity you claim matters. If you begin to tell yourself, I am disciplined, I am capable, I am relentless, I am building a life that matters, your brain begins to search for proof of that. Your actions begin to align with it, and slowly, the new story becomes the reality. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing the story that serves your growth instead of the one that has been suffocating you. Your future self doesn't want to inherit the same excuses you've been recycling for years. They don't want to live inside the cage of the old narrative. They want freedom, they want strength, they want possibility. And the only way to give it to them is to rewrite the story today. Stop saying I can't and start saying I will. Stop saying that's just who I am. And start saying that's who I used to be, but I'm changing. Stop repeating the words that kill your progress and start creating the language that breathes life into your potential. Because the story you speak is the life you live. And your future self is counting on you to finally choose words that match the greatness inside you.